Hi, friends, and thank you for joining me for episode 90 of the show. I am your host, Louise H. Reed, with listeners in over 145 countries and millions of iTunes downloads and ongoing podcasts. I'm the fortunate host here every week to talk life and leadership with people living extraordinary lives. Why extraordinary? I think they're extraordinary because they are people who are taking brave, bold action in pursuit of their dreams and goals, and are here to share their journey to help you do the same in yours. You hear me say this every week, that there is nothing more valuable than time. And so as my way of saying thank you to each of you for spending time with me, I have a monthly prize giveaway. Each month I have a draw for one listener to receive exclusive Lady Boss Loyalty swag. So please comment on a podcast episode with the hashtag Lady Boss Loyalty, and you are automatically entered into the draw. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to today's guest. Today we have with us Melinda Rombouts. Melinda is CEO and director of Eve & Co., a premier female-focused cannabis brand in the Canadian market. So here's like a big shout out to Canada. Again, I've had a lot of Canadians recently. So Melinda, prior to founding Natural Med Co., she was the president, manager, and owner of numerous large-scale businesses in the agricultural, food, real estate, and pharmaceutical industries. And through these, gained experience and knowledge in marketing, advertising, finance, project management, and business development. She has grown hundreds of varieties of plants, and through this experience, she has gained extensive plant knowledge crucial to the growth of a healthy plant and high-quality product. She has experience with QA, a program that I don't even know what it is, and so she can share that with us. Standard operating procedures development, implementation, and improvement with strict adherence to the regulations governing the pharmaceutical industry. Now, you probably don't know a lot as a listener about what that is. I think it's super important to recognize that this is the depth of experience that this woman is bringing to the cannabis market. She also has a BA and BSc from my alma mater, University of Waterloo, with a specialization in plant biology and legal studies. All that to say, Melinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm so honored that you're having me. So very excited.
The joy is and pleasure is absolutely all mine. I was thrilled when you said yes to me in terms of connecting after I read about the award that you received from RBC. Can you tell us a little bit about this award? And that's how I got connected to you. And so thank you to RBC for this. So tell us a little bit about that award and what that was trying to shine the light on.
Sure. So RBC holds these awards every year for women who are doing great things in Canadian business. And I was nominated as one to watch. So we are relatively new in the cannabis industry, as the cannabis industry is new as well. Very honored that I believe I was the only cannabis one. Really loved RBC for acknowledging that. We've been working with them for a little while, and I've got a picture up there. I had a lunch with the RBC president, and that was all very exciting. So so we were nominated for this, and I say we as in I totally acknowledge that the team really has brought the company up to where we are. And met some absolutely fantastic women. So I mentioned to you that I met Bean. Bean was, you interviewed Bean just lately, and she's fantastic. She was so impressive, but met with a lot of women who were very, very impressive. And it's so funny, the common theme when I talk to these ladies is about how things just came together on our path, and for us to lead us to the correct path, and how everything has come together. For me, I really, again, I acknowledge my team on building this company up, but it's funny how little things in the past kind of brought all the right aspects together, right? So it was exciting. It was an absolutely beautiful night. I had some of my team members come with me. It was held at the Fairmont, and it was a gorgeous night. It was exciting.
I love it. Kudos to you. Congrats to you and your team on getting that acknowledgement. And no doubt that has serve to open doors for other women in the industry that you won't even ever know about. And I think that that's what's so special. There's so many things that are special about this. There's a quote that I really love that says, is Marion Wright Elderman? Shoot, I really should know who I'm quoting. You cannot be what you cannot see. And so you're being that for others. And I think that is really, really inspirational and is what drew me to you to reach out. And so I'm, again, honored to have you here to share more of how you how this all came together for you. One of the things, the many things that you've said in our prior conversation and just now was how you were talking about how things of the past have come together on your path and how they get knit and woven together to get you where you are today. So maybe if we can rewind the clock a little bit and you can tell us some of those dots that you've connected, which you can only connect in hindsight, that got you here. Because I'm sure when, little 6-year-old Melinda, we didn't know about this. Certainly we had no idea that cannabis was going to be what it is now.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about what you wanted to be and what the journey really looked like and what some of those dots were that you have finally connected to bring you to where you are today.
Yeah. So don't know if we want to start with 6-year-old Melinda. She was a little bit of a rebel, and my mother will totally agree with that. But I guess I've always loved plant biology. I've always loved growing. I grew up on a farm. It was kind of I was describing one time to a friend about how I grew up, and it's kind of magical growing up on a farm. You don't get to spend a lot of time with your friends, but we had so many things. I had pets, like so many different kinds of pets, everything from rabbits to ducks to whatever, right? So it's a very unique experience, but I've always liked the growing of things, always loved plants. And I think that was always in my blood. It's in my family's blood. My family all has greenhouses as well. So they grow peppers, not cannabis. But again, I think it's something that's in you. And so I went to Waterloo, as you said, and took biology, loved it there, have great friends from there. Also with a minor in legal studies, because originally I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and I would have been a terrible lawyer. So I'm glad that this worked. So then I bought this greenhouse about 15 years ago, and it was basically a friend had it and wanted someone to manage it. And I said, no, there's no way I'm going to do that. But we started off, grew flowers, love seasonal flowers. Have always loved flowers. I will definitely miss it. First year was absolutely terrible. Everyone has a learning curve, right? And in 2008, when the financial crisis kind of started, it kind of corresponded to, we had cold Mays all the time. In the flower industry, if you do not make your profits, basically half of your income for the year is in May. So if you have a cold May and then people weren't buying flowers as much because they were luxury items, we were struggling as a company. And then it was kind of funny. I was approached by somebody who said, well, we want to rent a space in your greenhouse, but we're not going to tell you what we want to grow in it. And so eventually he said, well, the cannabis program is starting up and we want to grow cannabis in your greenhouse. I'm like, well, this is a garden center. I don't think that really matches, right? But then another cold May, and I said, well, okay, I think let's apply. Let's just see where it goes. It was half-heartedly. I really wasn't sure about this whole thing. And I think early on, a lot of people weren't sure about it. And we eventually got in. It took about 2.5 years. So we were licensed number 34, which was pretty early. And at the time, actually, we were the largest facility in Canada with 120,000 square feet. But right now that's on the small side. So everyone, because now we saw the possibility, everyone kept expanding. So we expanded, we added 100,000 square feet. And that was basically built in about 2 months. It was really quick. We got it licensed relatively quickly. It's still, Health Canada process is quite lengthy on approvals and ensuring that everything is in place. And then we decided to add another 780,000 square feet to get to that 1 million square foot mark. So right now we don't know exactly, but we know that we're probably within the top 5 largest cannabis facilities in the world. So we're really excited. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. We're all very excited. But again, I attribute that to, my greenhouse experience, working with the right builders. We've seen in this industry that not everyone has been able to finish their expansions. I'm very proud of this greenhouse. It's got all the bells and whistles that you could ever want. We specifically built it and designed it for cannabis. We use Sea of Green is a kind of a production model that we follow. So we have a lot of not huge plants; they're kind of shorter plants. And then, but with everything. So we've got a boiler system, and everything is backed up. So we have 3 boilers, 2 we use, 1 is a backup, that kind of thing. Everything is automated, from the roofs, the shades, the irrigation. So the irrigation is all like in a circulatory system. So anything that's not used comes back in. The fertilizer that's left in there is measured, we reuse it. So I really like that environmental idea of ensuring that everything is properly dealt with here. We have one unique feature is the butterfly roof. So usually when you see a greenhouse, it usually only opens on one side. These ones open on both. Cannabis is very susceptible to rot and mold, so you need great airflow. So this is a natural way of ensuring that we have proper airflow and that we can control our humidity, those kind of things. So it's we're really excited. So we were done in August of last year, and I thought it was amazing. We had approval within 4 months, which is amazing. So that was approved that was our Christmas present. So right before Christmas. And then we started putting plants in February. So we actually we weren't ramping up because we had no idea that it was going to be approved that quickly. And I attribute it to my team. They knew what they were doing as far as security and the application. So very happy with that. So we're putting our plants in. It's very excited that the plants are beautiful in there because it's got everything. Like it's got the extra CO2 injection and diffused glass. So we're really happy. We're very excited. So
that's awesome. I love hearing all of these successes. And there's something that you mentioned through this journey and the dots that you are connecting for us that I want to get to in a second. But before we do that, I know there'll be listeners who will have experiences with cannabis, perhaps like I've had, which my only experience with cannabis is that the house that I grew up in was sold to someone who used it as a pot house. And then, so that's kind of it. So I hear about cannabis, and I know others too are like, what? I don't know about this. Tell us, what are some of these kind of myths that you hear about all the time that you really, really would like to squash? And tell us about what you're doing to try to create that kind of re-education.
Well, I think that there's always, of course, been kind of this negativity around cannabis. And as a biologist, I really look at it and think, all of our medicine, or a lot of our medicine, comes from plants, right? So whether it's aspirin or whatever, or even components of medicines come from plants, and we combine it and we work with it, right? And you hear kind of over and over again from people who absolutely love the plant on how much of a gift it is to us. Anything and everything can be overused, right? Whether or not it's sugar or caffeine, but for marijuana, I say that as I've had 3 cups this morning.
We're all a work in progress.
But there's a full range. And I don't think that people really understand that. There's CBD, there's THC, but there's multiple types of CBD. There's multiple types of THC. And then there's the terpenes, right? So the full spectrum of cannabinoids. So people tend to think that, so CBD is more medicinal and THC is more of the get high and have a good time. But really the CBD definitely helps for neurological issues, those kind of things, where THC tends to help with pain. They are both medicinal, and it's really about how you use it. Many people are huge believers in certain strains. I've been very fortunate to talk to the Stanley brothers, who makes Charlotte's Web, and the great things that they're doing there for epileptic children. And Charlotte's Web has a certain profile between the cannabinoids and the terpenes that do amazing things. And there's such a great response for people using Charlotte's Web. It's a true medicine. So I always go back. I know that very early on, people were very hesitant about cannabis and what it would do to our society. But it does great things. And anything that's overused is bad. And I mean, if I had to choose between alcohol and cannabis, there's more negative aspects around alcohol than there is with cannabis, right? So people can really hurt themselves with alcohol. And I mean, people could hurt themselves with cannabis, especially children using it. People, I think they say before the age of 25, should be very cautious because it could actually do damage to your brain. But I think with anything, you use caution, whether or not it's medicines or food or coffee, right?
I love it. I love it. So thank you for that. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and want to understand about, this is a brand that's female focused. Tell me a little bit about what that means in terms of the business and the why behind that. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So it was I'm going to step back one step further. Is when we were waiting to get our initial cultivation license, I think we were waiting for about a year with very little communication from Health Canada. We had built out, we had invested, we had shut down the garden center. We were just waiting, and everything was on this, right? And I looked at the people who were getting in and getting those inspections. And at the time, all those companies, it was about 94 to 96% male leadership. So I wrote a letter to Health Canada. I said, listen, I mean, this is what you're seeing. I'm like, it's time that you let women in. So they didn't respond well to that. They said it's really about the quality of your application. But I did get an inspection date set up right after that. So maybe it had effect, maybe it didn't. So we were license number 34, and actually Jeanette from TGOD was license number 35. So it was nice to see two women get in almost right away. Now we're still sitting at about, I think we're still at 80% male leadership. And I still find that's, really incredibly outrageous, considering that in the cannabis industry in the States, it's very female dominated. And proportionally, the cannabis industry, I know that the licensed producers are trying to bring more women into leadership roles, but we're not really seeing it a whole lot. So back to the female brand. So because I was the first founder CEO, female, in this industry, we started talking and I don't know why it's worked out like this. I can kind of guess, but we have we have a lot of female leadership within our company. So where we are 70% female employees here, we've got more women on the board. We have more women supervisors and managers here. We actually see the opposite in other license holders, where it's about 70% male employees. So I think it trickles down. We also promote from within. But with all the women I have in my company, we started, really thinking about, what do we want, right? What do we want from our cannabis products? We have different needs, we have different wants, and I think that there's still that stigma with cannabis, and we really wanted to address those concerns that women have in being okay with using cannabis products. So I have a fantastic lady who's my product manager, and she's been working very very diligently on bringing the right products in. We knew that we did not have the time to develop products, that we really want to partner with companies that have already had, great successes with their products. So we partnered. The two press releases that we've done so far are Colio Winery, who makes Girls Night Out wine. So
I know the wine.
Yeah. We expect to have an infused beverage out hopefully shortly. And then we also partnered with Dr. K. So Dr. K pain cream in the States is hemp-based. We absolutely love them. We love them, what they do. He's been featured with Oprah and a bunch of these other guys. That it's such a well-developed, and that's what we really want. If we're gonna release a product, we wanna make sure that it's effective, that we like the people we're working with, that we believe in their product, and we like it enough to put the stamp of Eve on it. So now we're still working on others. We're a public company, so I can't say very much, but we have many more product lines coming up, and we're really, really excited. But I think the difference is we're a bunch of women who really, we've of course done our market research. We know that more than 50% of the actual cannabis buyers are women. We want to address it, and I think we are well prepared to do that as a bunch of women really focused and wanting to address what women want from their cannabis products.
Amazing. I truly believe that the feminine energy, so not necessarily females themselves, because men also have feminine energy, women also have masculine energy. In our society as it is right now, typically it's only appropriate in our construct for women to exude that feminine energy. So that's sort of my preamble to saying, what is it that women are bringing to this industry that's actually going to end up benefiting all? Because I truly believe that women or the feminine energy comes to solving problems and business problems with a broader perspective, more of a community mindedness in how they go about serving others and doing good in communities. I'm wondering what your perspective is on the difference that female leadership is bringing to cannabis in general.
Yeah. So one interesting thing as you were speaking that I thought of is when you go public, you do what they call a roadshow. So you go to the investment bankers, you present your story. And it was I went with one of my directors who has a lot of experience in this. And we went around through the Toronto investment bankers and the ones in BC. And it was really shocking at the end of that to realize out of the hundreds of investment bankers that I met with, and I would usually be the only woman in the room. I think out of those couple hundred investment bankers, I met 2 women. So, I mean, the proportion there is just unbelievable. So I think, I've read a lot since then and how women entrepreneurs are seen. And it's really interesting because we are treated differently. We are looked at differently. I think it's changing. And, with RBC, for example, they actually are purposely backing women, especially entrepreneurs. Because that's the one thing that I think when we present ourselves, we're not grandiose, right? We don't go out there and say, this is everything I'm going to do. I'm going to build 1 million square feet, right? So we don't present ourselves like that. We tend to be very real on our own expectations and present it as that. And I think that's a total positive thing. I don't think it's a mistake that we're making. I think that it's a realism, though, that people have to understand is that we do present ourselves differently, but we follow through. And I think that we've shown that over and over and over again, that we follow through with what we're going to say because we don't have these huge expectations on ourselves. We have realistic expectations on ourselves. And we do work. I know they say this all the time. We work twice as hard to get where we are. We really do. And we prove ourselves over and over and over again. We have to prove ourselves.
We do. And the question comes out of interest, as well as I was listening to a podcast recently, and there was this female founder. She's a founder of a shoe company, and she went to China. This is where her products were being created, and is a very personal connection to this company that she founded. And she asked herself, how can I help these people who are working on this floor? How many pairs of boots pass their hands every single day? How do I make this personal for them? And so what she did was she decided to create a camp. She said it took a long time because of all sorts of cultural and all sorts of issues that she hadn't anticipated, being in China versus she's from the US. She put together this summer camp where employees' children could attend this camp, which was really close to their place of employment. Long story short, the kids had a phenomenal time, and the parents got to see their children 40% more during the summer as a result of, there's lots of commuting issues and all sorts, again, of constraints that here in North America, I don't think we can appreciate or understand. And she did it to try to help others feel a greater connection to the work that they did. And the feedback that she has since gotten on that has resulted, it results in better business outcomes, even though that wasn't the intent. And so I tell this long-winded story because it really made me sit back and think about, that is what I believe the feminine energy, which men have as well, which I'd love to be able to, get to a place where both can bring the masculine and the feminine a bit more equally. That's what I believe women are bringing to business, which is really changing the lives of people who work in the workplaces, communities, etc. I know there are wonderful men who are great examples of this as well, but as a whole, I'm excited for that. I think that's one of the benefits that I'm seeing as I'm really researching more women in business and the impacts that they're having really, really far-reaching, in addition to financial results. It's a greater impact.
It is. That's absolutely amazing, and I love that. It's something that we've talked about very early on here. It's funny here, we're such a family. So, for example, my master grower is married to my production manager, or sorry, my product manager. And so we have a lot of families, but basically we started with somebody, they loved it here. So they brought their family, they brought their friends. It's very tight here. And I always say that it's more worthwhile to bring someone in who is enthusiastic, who loves their job, right? There's so much training our people have to do, all the SOPs, all the controls in place. It's so important for us to support our team and make sure that our team is happy here. So the HR person that I hired her because she's one of the kindest people that I know, and that she'd be there to support my team. So of course there's all the financial and everything that she's got to deal with. But really the reason I chose her is because I know that she would support our team, and that she'd be the person there who would always want to make sure that she addressed the overall well-being of our team. So I think right now we're very early on. I love, the idea of having, a camp and supporting women with their children, because that is the difference with us, right? That we have a unique balance that we have to attend when it comes to both our family and our businesses, right? So I have my son working here. I had my daughter till she got a better job working here, and I love that. And so my son, he's been with me for 5 years. He's actually crucial to the company because I rely on him for so many things now. Because 5 years into the cannabis industry, you're a veteran, right? So more than 5 years is a very young industry, but if you've been here for 5 years, you've seen it all, right? You've gone through the ACMPR to the cannabis regs and to the additional products. So you've seen all these things. So for us, I would love to be able to support our people more and more, and the community. We have a whiteboard out of my office that says, my team laughed at me. I brought them all together and I'm like, listen, I'm going to start a group on how can we change the world? And a lot of them laughed at me, and I think they didn't think I can, but I can. Small steps, right? Small steps. And, it's about supporting my team, making them, especially the women who are in management roles here, and all women, we want to promote from within. We want I want them to feel like they can move up from production to supervision. I only ever ask them two things: try your best and get along as the team. And I think those are the two most important things. Once you get up to management, of course, there's also be respectable and respect your people. And I think that by doing that and lifting up the people within my team, that we've really, hopefully, have a positive effect on the whole community.
I love that question that you asked, by the way, that you said you put on your whiteboard. How can we change the world? I wonder if everyone woke up that day wondering, how can I change the world today? It's just a very different perspective, isn't it? Or than the perhaps what it is that we have running through our minds. And I think that we all can, in big or small ways. I think we all, sometimes it's one conversation at a time. Oftentimes it's one conversation at a time. Someone at the bus stop, someone that you have a meeting with. How do you show up that day in a way that may change lives? And then I do think looking at business through that lens, or at least asking the question, like having that in as part of your mindset, I think ends up generating different kinds of possibilities for business.
It is. So we keep a list going.
I love it.
Yeah, suggestions, and they're great suggestions, right? And then we also have a list of what have we been able to achieve. So I think when I asked them the question, how do we change the world, they kind of thought, oh, now she's just being ridiculous. But small steps, right? Just small steps. So, for example, I had one of our employees walk up and say, sounds like I'm going to have to move. I don't know what to do. She's a single mom. And we put our heads together. It's like, there's programs out there for single moms to buy their first home. Like, let's pull some expertise together, whether or not it's legal or real estate, bank. Let's put them together. Let's see if our women, like, they have stable jobs here, maybe they can buy their first home. And how do we help them do that, right? So little steps, right?
Little steps that make a big difference in the lives of others, for sure. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned through all of these little dots that you said have connected to get you to where you are today?
One of the things, so I told you before we started, I'm actually quite shy. And also, I think, like with any women, and women specifically, we can really doubt ourselves, right? That we really second guess ourselves. And I think that's something that is just kind of in us. It's something that happens as we grow up and we make mistakes. I think that the biggest lesson I have was that to trust myself on my decisions, that, I question whether or not, every decision you probably question at some point, right? But to trust that I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I know this company more than anybody else, that it really comes down to that. And I think that's the one key that women really have to, at some point, click and just say, stop doubting yourself. You got this, right? You got this. So make that decision, trust your gut. And when I have, my lawyers or accountants or anybody questioning me, I know the answer. So just stand up and say it, stick with it, trust your gut. And I think that's a big thing. You got to trust your gut. So I think that was a huge.
Make the decision, trust your gut, you've got this.
Yeah.
I love that. Simple, but I think you can get really grounded in that. I think you can get really grounded in that and less lost in all of the conversation that happens in the questioning. You're obviously a great leader in many aspects, and I believe that great leaders create great teams. And so I'm curious to understand, because I've read a little bit about your approach to building the great team of people around you, so that you can achieve the success that you can't do alone. So what's your approach?
So I used to do all the interviewing. And of course, HR does that now. But when I first talk to people, I'll start off with the story first. So my head supervisor for my bedroom, when I first met her, she was so nervous, she was shaking. And I didn't really get very much out of her because she was so shy. She was shaking. And I looked at this girl and I thought, wow, she wants this job so bad. I think that she'll do anything to really keep it. And I think she's going to work her butt off. And she has. So that's where she's gone from production to a supervisor. And she's fantastic, right? And she's been with me for quite a long time now, and really impressive. So when I would interview people, it was really about, of course you need the experience, of course you need the education, and you get a lot of applicants, but really it came to its personality, right? It's how much loyalty am I going to get from this person? Are they going to help me build the company? That's the number one question. Are they going to help me build the company? Are they going to work their butts off for Eve? Because of course I've got to work with them and get them to believe in Eve. But it's funny, around Women's Day last year, we had an influx of applications. And maybe that's one of the reasons that we have 70% female employees, right? But they liked what Eve stood for and what we're trying to do, and promotion from within, and believing in women, and believing that that they can do every position here, and they'll have the chance to grow here with Eve. So I think it comes down to, I hire more for personality. If they have the qualifications and I have two people exactly the same, it's going to be about that personality and how they fit in the team. I think the people here are happy on the most part for being here, because of how I've built the team. They're very loyal. I absolutely love my team. Absolutely love them. I'm different from maybe some CEOs where I try to be, I'm at the greenhouse. I don't know if you're hearing the tractor in the background all the time. Sorry. But I love being here. I love supporting the team. I'm in every office every day, seeing what people need. And I always say to them, I'll say, hey, did you guys think about this? And of course they have. They've already covered it all, right? I'm like, soon you guys aren't going to need me at all. I'm going to be the CEO from some southern island, and I'll just call in once in a while. But my step up as CEO has really been, I'm here for them. What can I give you what tools can I give you to be the best supervisor that you can? And that's my job now, right? So I can look at strategy, I can see the overview. Any conflict that we ever have in the team tends to be, one department and the other saying, yeah, but we need this and we need this, because they both want the best thing for their team and for the company, right? And it's me kind of working between them and doing that balance, because they're not really fighting against each other. They just want the best for their departments, their team, the company, right? And it's just a matter of mine is to really do an overview between those two departments and say, listen, you guys both want the same thing. How can we do this all together, right? So that's my job now.
I love that. I'm going to rewind the clock of this interview and take us back to when you were talking about the first year of the flower business and greenhouse. And you said that the first year was not very successful. And no. So the reason I'm going back here to this point is that I imagine that was a junction where you must have been asking yourself so many questions, including, well, what do we do? Do we continue? Do we stop? I have to imagine there was fear in there somewhere. And I'd really love to hear from you, because you're clearly full of courage and grit. Talk to us a little bit about what kind of went in your head and your heart space there that made you then forge forward, and how do you do that? Because I think I work with a lot of women, both in entrepreneurship capacity as well as in business, in corporate, who get really stuck there, and that often is the place of self-sabotage. So I'd love for you to share with us, how did you navigate that particular crossroad?
Yeah, I think at that time, that first year, I did not have the skills to deal with that, right? I come from a family of people who work way too much. I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But we're very dedicated to work, and I love to work. But I think, yeah, it gets to you. It gets to your heart and soul when you fail, right? And at that time, I don't think I had the skills. I think I looked at myself and went, maybe you can't do this. Like, maybe you're not good enough for this, right? And it's so funny because I was thinking about this and how important failure is, right? So, the whole thing about, just get back up on the horse kind of thing. But really, the real lesson I think that women should get from any failure is to not internalize it, right? To really believe in yourself and really, I was thinking kind of one of the worst times when we were struggling was, I remember one time I couldn't pay all my bills, right? Like it was, this was, I think, around 2008 when it was getting so tight financially. And I remember sitting down in the greenhouse and just crying. I didn't know what to do, right? And that was the worst reaction possible. And I think the click with me is now whenever I have stress, I think, okay, what can I do about it? What are my plan A, B, and C? And it used to be just plan A. Now I'm plan B and C as well. My mind is always going on solutions. And I think that is the key function for anyone who's going to be successful and turn those failures into something else, is really about being solution based. It's about not being a victim ever, right? I think thinking of yourself as a victim is an absolutely terrible thing. It's about, and not about, where's all the negative aspects? What are the solutions? I actually really don't care. My team knows that we're going to fail. We're going to fail as we go forward. There's going to be aspects that we're not going to do as well on as we should. But how can we fix them? That's what it's all about. We have 1 million square feet to ramp up, and it's going to be a learning. We're doing really well so far. I'm actually really, really happy about this right now, that we're doing like no issues as we ramp up, because it's such a big deal to get into 1 million square feet.
Yeah, I can't even really quite imagine 1 million square feet, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a video. So, but the one, there's a video on our website.
I'll put that in the show notes.
There you go. It's a drone video. It's pretty cool. Well, just to give you an idea, if you were in the very, very back corner and you had to go to the bathroom, it takes you 13 minutes to walk there. Wow. So that's the worst thing about 1 million square feet. It takes you a long time to go to the bathroom.
I love how that's a story that you use to indicate that distance, because anyone who has had to go to the washroom knows that 13 minutes is a far walk. So yeah, I love that. And kudos to you again for just going with this. And I love your explanation on the story around not internalizing the failure. And I think fear as well. Like, fear keeps us small, and failure keeps us small. Negativity keeps us small. And those are very real things that happen in our lives and in the human experience. But for it not to have limited you, because very easily you could have chosen a different path at that junction that I just referenced, and you wouldn't be here today talking about this 1 million square foot facility that you have. I'm curious to know if, because of the success that you've achieved, there have to be a lot of either hacks or rituals or habits that you have either in your mind or scheduled in your day that keep you focused and moving towards your goals. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind that you can share with our listeners about one of the keys, those keys to success for you?
Keys to success. Well, like, nothing's really changed of how I live my life since 2008, when I felt, I still live in the same house. I drive I don't spend money, right? That's, everything is really about the company. So I have not sold a single share because it's all about building this company. So as far as financially, I have not changed whatsoever. Except for maybe I'll buy, a few more dresses maybe than I used to. I was shopping maybe with my daughter a little bit too much, but anyway, but I think it really is, my life has not changed at all, really, because in a way I'm still as dedicated to my company back then. It was funny what you said is like that I could have changed, back in, I could have done something else. You know what, when you said that, I was like, you know what? I don't remember ever thinking that I was going to do something else. Yeah. I just thought, no, we'll just keep working at this until we make it work. And I did everything possible, like, to continue on and find the money somewhere to keep going. Right. So that was funny. So I don't think that I've changed at all, other than that one key of driving and believing in yourself, and not to question yourself. Don't question yourself so much that you put yourself down, right? So I actually don't think that I've changed that much. I do get to travel more too, so I think that's really great. Like, we are selling a lot to, or we have supply agreements into Germany.
Wow.
So I went to Germany quite a bit last year. So if anything, last year I had 2 days off, but I love my job, right? So I'm still working pretty much every day. Again, work too much. But I love the job and I love my company, and it doesn't feel like I need time off. So I don't think I've changed that much.
So I love that. I mean, it's interesting how the first word that came to mind when you said that was grounded. And so considering you're from a farming family and you're still doing farming, it's actually kind of interesting to me that you have been and remained grounded. I've got a few rapid fire questions, if I may. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
Believe in myself. And I mean, if life is stressful, just keep going.
I love that. What's something that most people, and I'm thinking about the people in the greenhouse, people that are working with you, what's something that most of them will not know about you?
Not know about me?
If you want to pass, you can pass.
We talked about this already, that, they all thought I was a little bit crazy. I'm not crazy, right? So I think that's one thing that people don't know. I'm pretty normal. So, but I'm enthusiastic, right? So they probably think I'm I'm excited to be here. So I am not crazy.
Not crazy. I like that. What does the world need more of?
More of women leadership. I think not just in the cannabis industry. I think at every level. I think women who stay at home with their kids need to be respected much, much more. I just read a book by Melinda Gates, and gosh, I wish I could remember the name of it, but they talk about, there it is. That's it.
I just got this for my birthday yesterday. Yeah. It was my birthday yesterday. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. It's called The Moment of Lift. Those who are listening and not watching the show, The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. Okay.
That's funny that you had it sitting right there.
I know.
I took that to the beach, and once I got into it, I read that book in like 2 hours. I was amazed, but the value, the loss of or how women's time is not considered, especially not just stay-at-home moms. I mean, moms in general, right? I'm always reminding our women here, it's like, the work that you do at home is also very, very valuable, right? But it is also a loss to your professional life too, right? So a balance is important. Read the book, you'll love it.
I can't wait. I know, I can't wait. And then my final question, do you have a go-to book or podcast or something that we just talked about this book, that's like a go-to for you that you wanted to share with the listeners?
I've been watching your podcast. Absolutely love them. I spent probably an hour or two with Bean at the RBC Awards, and listening to your podcast, I learned so much more about her. I was just like in awe. So it was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. So
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your time, even most importantly, because as I mentioned, as I say every time on the show, there's nothing more valuable than that. And clearly with the work that you have in front of you with Eve, this was a big chunk of your day that you chose to spend with me and my listeners. So thank you for sharing all of what you have today. Is there anything that you feel like you are chomping at the bit to share that you really would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, there's one thing, and I say this a lot. Like I said, everything kind of came together for me on a path, whether or not it was my background in biology or the QA quality assurance that I learned through my path being in the nutraceuticals. Even some of the negative things that happened, where we were held back, it actually ended up being a positive that brought us to where we are. And when you're on the right path, then things come together. So I think sometimes if things get really, really rough, is question your path and lead yourself to something that, I do think that there's maybe something out there that leads us on the right direction. And I think my purpose in life is to support women. It's not necessarily maybe about Eve, it's what Eve stands for that is so important to me. So that's kind of my thing.
Beautiful words to an inspiration to end the show on. So thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
One thing I didn't share on the show is how people can reach you, find out about you, find out about Eve. Can you just share with us where people can find you? And I'll also include that in the show notes.
Sure. So our website is evecannabis.ca. So there's toll-free numbers there. There's emails there. So that's how you, and the drone video is there.
Awesome. Thank you. So check that out, friends. Let us know what you think of the show. I always love hearing from all of you. So thank you to all of you for listening, and I'll remind you that info about the show and my guests can be found at louisehreed.com. You can catch all my podcast episodes wherever you like to catch your podcasts, or check out videos on YouTube. Check out my channel and subscribe. Finally, a big shout out to two men in my life who this show would not happen without. One is Cameron Steele. He's my producer at Contact Talk Radio Network, and always the love of my life, Jay. So until next week at this time, I'm Louise H. Reed, wishing all of you a bold and courageous day. And in the words of our wonderful guest today, Melinda, when you're on the right path, things come together. So trust that. Have an awesome day, friends. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you.